Need more Grok Talk? Well, you can catch new shows Saturday mornings from 9 to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Miss a show? Not a problem. Past shows are rebroadcast here daily from 9 to 11 a.m. Monday through Friday. Join us for 2 hours of unapologetic conservatism. And we're not just armed with opinions.
All right, we are back. This is an appropriate song for what's been going on in Washington. It's called Too Much. Alrighty, welcome back. Thanks again to CNHT, Ed Nail, the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers. Go to cnht.org. They got a picnic coming up July 9th, first Saturday after the 4th of July.
Location to be announced.
Location has not yet been announced, but I think they have something locked down. They just need to finalize it. All right, time to move forward. New Hampshire has a senator. It needs a different senator. Let's see, is this you? That's you.
I've been a state senator, but we need a different U.S. senator. No doubt about it.
We need a different U.S. senator.
Yeah.
Jim is known for lots of things. You might know Jim for battling corporate casinoism for many, many, many years. And I must say that my first worry when you stopped doing that was that they were going to pass a bill, a casino bill, and they haven't done it yet. A lot of other people have gotten up and started fighting that, and so far, even with this legislature, we've managed to keep it from happening.
Yeah.
The other thing that he's known for that you may not know is SB 2, which is basically the secret ballot bill. It used to be the only way you could vote for anything in this town was to go to a town meeting, stand in front of all your friends and neighbors, and tell them you didn't want something they wanted.
Yeah.
And so SB 2 allowed you to vote in a voting booth on a ballot so that you could vote secretly, and they couldn't intimidate the crap out of you.
and it also meant all-day voting so that working stiffs could actually vote at the beginning or end of the day.
That's one of the reasons I ran for state senate back in 1994. I ran in a fairly liberal district, and I had to explain to people the advantages of being able to walk in 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and vote yes or no in the privacy of a voting booth on the new fire truck or on the police station or the teacher union contract, because the old way we used to do it in the state, you'd show up, you'd raise your hand voting against the union contract, and your kid would get kicked off the football team within days. You're talking about local corruption, it's an example. And so I had to go out, and I'd never held office before, and I decided in 1994 to run against the Senate president, a sitting Senate president. Say, Jim, this is so stupid, you can't defeat the second most powerful person in the state. And I explained to people why I was in favor of school choice and why I thought people ought to be able to vote in the privacy of a voting booth at a time convenient to them. And people liked those ideas. And I went down there to Concord, right here in Concord, and I got both those things done in my first 2 years in office. And that touches you on your last subject, which was local corruption.
Correct, and that's the most important one because people don't realize that it's the same thing. The teachers' unions, it still happens at town meeting because we all still have town meeting. We have town meeting to decide what's on the ballot.
You have the deliberative session, and we were aware as we were constructing Senate Bill 2, what is now called Senate Bill 2, of that problem. You still have to show up. And I advise voters, show up at the deliberative session.
Because you won't have anything worth voting for.
You might not have a choice if you don't. Yeah, you can vote no, but you might wind up with yes. Your no might become yes. The default budget might be bigger than the budget you hoped for.
Which has, in my town, has not been the case for a couple of years, but for a while there, you'd see it. You'd get the sample ballot, and you'd be like, people are going to vote for this.
Right, and Max has been on his town budget committee and has seen the corruption firsthand. The Skip was on his town budget committee and was not popular as a result. Yeah. So, all this stuff happens. But the biggest corruption, of course, is in Washington and the money that Washington spends and how it uses that money, which it steals from us to coerce our state governments and town governments into oppressing us. So they basically steal our money and use it to further the oppression. Yeah. It really is like a mafia racket. So, and I get all of that, and I agree with a lot of what you're here for. We have disagreed on a few things too, but
well, let's talk about the Senate race.
So let's talk about the Senate race. Why it's necessary to challenge? Why only you stood up, which I found astonishing. I thought there were several potential candidates out there, and I applaud you for taking the courage to stand. Yeah. And what your platform is.
Let me start. Actually, you were talking about gambling. I was down in Salem 2 nights ago, and Salem was a tough place for me in 2014 when I ran for U.S. Senate. I was the leading guy opposed to the casino down there. Well, now they've given up, and the land is sold. The owners of the property have sold it. It's now going to be recycled into some kind of commercial use.
Something useful.
And it's going to be useful.
Tax generating.
And there's going to be a tax generating use there. And of course, they peppered me with questions about casinos because the folks in Salem, wanted it. But I turned the room around 2 nights ago. I got people coming up to me, volunteering. And you know why? Is because I describe what I'm about to describe right now. And I'm going to start with a little bit of history because people don't know me. Okay, because I'm Jim Rubens from Hanover, New Hampshire. So I got up here. I went to Dartmouth College. I was a chemistry major, and I had gotten through about 3 years of my college career. I had finished my major because I was good. I won a math prize in high school and a debating prize, by the way, which helps in politics. And my parents got divorced, and the money was gone. And I went back home on vacation during this period of time after the divorce, and I found the refrigerator empty. I had a brother and 2 sisters, and my 2 sisters were out babysitting. They'd take their bike down, and they'd get their babysitting money. They'd buy food, put it in the refrigerator. It was hard times. So I left college, and it was during one of those Arab oil embargoes. For those of you who are old enough to remember the OPEC Arab oil embargoes, it was rugged in New England. There were bumper stickers on the back of cars that said, "Will the last Yankee to leave New England please turn out the lights?" It was over. I could not get a job. I had a lot of knowledge about chemistry. What good did that do? And so I couldn't get a job, so I went to work as a dump picker. Back when there were dumps, people would back their trucks, and they'd back to the dump, and they'd light that on fire, and you'd have over the edge of the dump, you'd have all the charred remains, you'd have refrigerators, and I would go down there, and I'd collect copper and brass and bronze. I had a bicycle because I couldn't afford a car. I'd put the copper and brass into the bike rack in my car. I'd drive it to the junk dealer on my bike, and I was able to earn $40 an hour back at the time, which was phenomenal. And I was able to amass enough money to buy my first commercial real estate property, a sort of beaten up 3-unit kind of apartment in a tough part of town in the Upper Valley. And I upgraded it, added more apartments, and I got into investing and starting businesses. I started 10 businesses. I invested in a lot of stuff. I invested in a company that went public at $2 billion. Some win, some lose. And I'd basically done that for about 20 years, starting and running companies. I know how to run companies. So then this 1993 comes along, and it was one of these turbulent years. It was the Ross Perot period, take back our nation and all this stuff. And I decided to, along with 3 other people, we decided to have a meeting and talk with Get Local, because we were national. So let's get local, because we weren't getting anywhere national. Bill Clinton got in. So he says, let's go local. And we decided to interview the Senate president, who happened to be our local state senator. And I decided that the guy didn't know what the heck he was talking about. So I said, if he doesn't know what he's talking about, I can do that job. I'd never thought about running for office before. So I decided I'm going to run right there. I'm going to run for state senate. And I won. And I made some big promises. I promised all-day voting, which is now called SB2 voting. By the way, voter turnout is up 5 times in the state because of that. I promised to do charter schools, and I got the charter school law passed my 2nd year in office. One of my favorite stories is the top testing school in this state is the Academy of Science and Design. It's a STEM school in Nashua, New Hampshire.
I know people who go there.
Yep. And it's attracting young families to come into New Hampshire because it's high-quality STEM education. This is math, science, engineering, etc. And it operates at 1/3 the cost per student of our typical K through 12 schools.
We just had a vote, House Bill 593 last year.
Yeah.
We only managed to get 25 Democrats. I'm glad that we got 25 Democrats to approve funding.
Yep.
Because it was the extra $1,000 a year necessary. We bumped it up from $5,400 to $6,400.
Right.
It's just enough to keep the charter schools open.
Exactly.
And it's also a benefit to the taxpayer because Seabrook's schools cost $16,000 a year per student. Winnicott costs $22,000 per year per student.
Right.
And 40% of those charter schools deal with kids who are struggling, and some of them would end up in special ed in $30,000 to $60,000 per year programs. So it's charter schools are a huge benefit for the kids. They're also a benefit for the taxpayer. And that's why the teachers' unions fight against them.
Yeah. But there are teachers, for example, there's a charter school that is heavily founded and formed by teachers over in Durham, New Hampshire. and the teachers like it. They're willing to work, and I know this is controversial, but they're willing to work for lower pay. You know why? Because they have autonomy in their classroom. They love the idea. They're not dealing with all of the bureaucracy
administrative
that comes
overhead
rolling down from the federal and state levels. They can be teachers, and it works very, very well. Parents are choosing it. It's saving tax. So it's showing this is where we are right now. These issues showing how Republican core values. We believe in limited government. We believe in dispersing power down to the lowest level. We believe in freedom of choice. And these examples show how our values not just are abstract, but they make people's lives better. We can solve problems. We can save money and make people's lives better. So here we are. Here we are in 2016. Okay, we've got Congress polling lower than toenail fungus and hemorrhoids. Okay. We've got the anti-establishment candidates winning on the left, Bernie Sanders, and on the Republican side, Donald Trump in our primary right here in February, won both of them by landslides in New Hampshire. And what that's telling you is the voters here in New Hampshire are fed up to the gills with business as usual in corrupt, bought and paid for, a crony capitalist Washington where Republicans break all their promises. They come out, and so here I am. I'm running against Kelly Ayotte, okay? I worked to get her elected in 2010, okay?
Most of us did.
A lot of us, because...
We didn't want Paul Hodes.
Yeah, well, Paul Hodes was good. But I worked for her in the primary, okay, which was controversial at the time. And so I helped get her elected. She won by 1,700 votes in the primary. So she broke her promises, okay? It's a big thing. She promised no amnesty, okay? She gets down there, drinks the Kool-Aid, whatever they're serving down there, and goes ahead and votes for the Gang of Eight, open borders, and this is what I call it, drive down American wages bill, okay? That's number one. She broke a big, big promise, and our country is not safe because of that. That open border is insane. We got pictures. I had a press event 2 weeks ago. We got pictures, hidden cam with local folks who are monitoring the border, helping border control, voluntary folks. You're watching drug mules walk across in single file with big backpacks, all the same size. They're drug mules, and they're coming across Kelly Ayotte's open border, killing New Hampshire citizens with fentanyl and opioids and heroin, okay, from Mexican drug cartels. The open border. People are coming across. We don't know what else is in the backpack. Could it be bomb-making materials? Could terrorists coming across that open border? It's wide open. It's insane, okay? She did that. She promised to be a fiscal conservative, right? Did anyone here say she was going to be a fiscal conservative?
I do recall that.
Oh, yes.
She voted for the Cromnibus and the Omnibus bills. These are the last two budget bills, 2014, 2015, $1.5 trillion of additional national debt that we can't, and it's all, current spending, loaded on the backs of taxpayers in the future. They're not going to get any benefit. If there's anything that's at the center of republicanism, at the center, it's fiscal conservatism. And she's abrogated that. She promised, thirdly, and this is the other biggie, she promised to be a constitutional conservative. And she's gone ahead, and I'm going to give you just 3 examples. She is the one of 2 Republicans who are behind Obama's EPA global warming regulation. 600 some odd pages of hyper-complex regulation that do nothing to fix global warming if you have to believe in it. But what it does do is it drags the states down to Washington, and it has a federal takeover of your choice for what kind of energy you want to use. My approach is get rid of all the subsidies and let the market decide, and we're going to get energy faster that way. She went ahead and voted for this thing called ESSA, Every Student Succeeds Act. That was last year, okay?
Yep.
And for folks who don't know
familiar.
what that is, unconstitutional for the first time in national history, the federal government, Department of Education, U.S. Department of Education, has the authority to approve or disapprove of every state's education plan. Every state now has to go to Papa government and get its Now, if you like federal control, there's no call for this in the Constitution, but if you think the federal government is going to fix local education, try Goals 2000 in Common Core. Or No Child Left Behind. Doesn't work. And then, this is the straw that broke the camel's back for many folks. She voted against Mike Lee's amendment. This gets a little bit in the weeds. I don't know if you folks have heard about this.
We're in the weeds, so.
You guys are in the weeds. HUD, the Housing and Urban Development, now has the authority to whip us using our own money and tell us what kind of demographics we need to have in our towns and cities. They've taken over local zoning. Mike Lee put up an amendment because this was an executive order from Obama to put this into the HUD budget. Mike Lee put an amendment, clean vote, up or down, to defund this HUD AFFH rule.
And she voted to support it.
She voted to support Obama's federal takeover, de facto federal takeover of local zoning. Okay, she promised to be a constitutional conservative. There is no authority in the U.S. Constitution for the federal government to run our local zoning policy.
We've had national guests.
So
you folks have talked about this?
Oh, yeah.
We absolutely have.
People who say, well, we've got to vote for the Republican no matter what the establishment. You know what they're telling me? This is why there's only one person running against Kelly Ayotte. It's only me. Jim Rubens here, by the way, if you don't remember the name. Because
JimRubens.com.
JimRubens.com, yes, if you want to get involved. And we need people involved. The establishment has told me over and over again, privately, we have told her we don't like her votes, but we have to suck up to her because she's got the K Street money. She's got a wall of K Street money, and they've told me that's all that counts.
Which is why the state party is corrupt.
It's corrupt.
And does not do what the people want it to do. Why it has a platform for which it requires no adherence whatsoever on the behalf of the Republican legislators and senators, and, of course, our U.S. Senator. And it's a complete travesty.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Right. So
rant off.
Right. We got 2 minutes left in the segment.
So I'm running. Here's the short and sweet is.
Can we do a holdover, or we got too much to talk about?
We can do another 20. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm running because Republicans believe in our core values, and I'm running so that we have a Republican in the U.S. Senate who will vote for our values and our principles, and they're good. They mean a lot. And the other thing that I need to tell folks is, and again, I have to contradict the establishment. They say only the K Street Kelly is going to have the money to defeat Hassan. False. I've been down to Washington, talked with these folks, and the control of the U.S. Senate is at stake. And they've told me in no uncertain terms that I'm qualified, that I know what I'm talking about, I can wrap my mind around issues. They've told me the big millions will be there for whoever the nominee is in our primary. And what this means is that there'll be the money to defeat Hassan. Number one. Number two, it's up to the Republican voters of this state to decide if you want a Republican voting Republican in the U.S. Senate representing our state, or a Republican voting with a 23% conservative voting record, Kelly Ayotte, representing us in the United States Senate. We, primary voters in this state, have the choice to determine whether we're going to be a Republican Party that stands for anything anymore.
You going to stick around for another 20 minutes?
Love
or are you
it.
going to go? Okay.
Love it.
Well, we will keep Jim over and talk about some more issues. And then after that, we have John Zimrak from the stream coming on to talk about some cultural stuff, a little history. We're going to have a little lesson. And, of course, we still have our guest host, Max Abramson, at the end of the table.
A vote for Max's for less taxes.
Aha. That works.
That's awesome. I love that. All right.
Libertarian for governor. Yes, no? Thinking about it?
Being asked to run.
All right. Well, maybe we'll visit that in our last segment. Who knows? We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
This is the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is the repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Rock Talk.